securitization. Now, you might recall that 10 years ago we had a crisis, and that securitization was widely blamed as one of the causes of that crisis. So you're probably thinking, why am I talking about this toxic financial product in the context of sustainability in developing markets? Well, as you might have seen in our newspaper this week, the African Development Bank completed a trailblazing $1 billion securitization last month, the first in the sector to involve private investors. The potential to make the NDB's existing capital go further by recycling assets has barely been explored, but the AFDB has shown that through this transaction, though this transaction was difficult, it can be done. The potential for expansion is huge. For other NDBs, this is a very interesting technique. They are transferring risk at a price which is competitive to enhance their capital metrics. The fact that the rating agencies have been involved and assessed the merits of the transaction means that the first mover has created a path for other NDBs to follow. The influence of the African Development Bank's transaction need not be confined to development banks, and it's something that perhaps can be replicated for commercial banks to structure this type of transaction. It's something that I believe every government here should be encouraging its banking sector to look at, and encouraging any multilateral that it pays into to look at it as well. As I said earlier, national budgets are tighter than ever, yet the needs are bigger than ever. It is therefore surely time to embrace financial technologies such as securitization as a way of making every public dollar, euro, RMB or rupiah to go as far as it can. Only then we will be able to meet the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. Thank you. And now on to the main part of the evening, onto our awards. Ruth Beddoes, Director of Global Markets, and I will be officiating the ceremony, but I'm delighted to say that Damien Fiatkuski, Regional Director Middle East and CIS of our sponsor Delarue, will be handing over our first award of the evening, East Asia Pacific Finance Minister of the Year. And our award, of course, goes to Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati of Indonesia, and I'd just like to give a couple of reasons why she's won before she comes up to stage. Indonesia's government has a long history of two problems: not hitting the tax collection target and not actually spending the entire amount that budgeted. Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati, under her governorship, her leadership, the country's tough-talking finance minister has tried to address both issues. Tax collection was around 91% of the target last year, a big jump from the 83% hit over the previous 2 years. Government spending grew at its fastest rate in 3 years. Hit over the last 2 years. Government spending grew at its fastest rate in 3 years during 2017, but just as important, the disbursement of capital expenditures went from 73% in 2016 to 97% in 2017, the highest level in 6 years. When Moody's upgraded Indonesia to Baa2 in April, it said the decision was in part because of an increasingly credible and effective framework. Credible and effective are two words that accurately sum up Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati. And I'd like to ask her to come to stage to pick up her award.
Thank you so much. I feel humbled and honored to receive this award. I think this award goes to all the Minister of Finance who worked very hard in the past 3 years, almost 2.5 years now with me, and try to first making sure that the government of Indonesia, especially under the leadership of President Jokowi, who has all those ambitious target to catch up the development, infrastructure development, human capital development, institutional development. These are all required support from our budget, but how we are going to make sure that those very good and commendable sound ambition can be financed in a sustainable and prudent way. So these are the challenges that we are having. So we really design our budget first aligning very well with the development goal outlined by our leaders, but at the same time injecting a lot of prudent and more creative financing in order for us to be able to use the money wisely and effectively. We introduced the concept of value for money by stimulating and incentivizing both the ministry as well as local government, so that they are not only fully depend on government budget. And the attitude toward crowd in, we just mentioned earlier, many of a resource coming from the private sector without compromising on accountability and prudent as well as sustainability is a challenge, but we actually move very progressive on that. On the tax, we all know Indonesia, after receiving a commodity boom, and then the commodity price collapse in 2014, that's definitely put huge pressure on our revenue while the demand is continue increasing. So for us, another launch of what we call it a tax reform program is not a luxury, it's not a choice, it's become a mandatory. The question is how we are going to intensify the revenue. So we use the momentum on the international fora, in which the automatic exchange of information as well as the coordination and cooperation among countries to avoid base erosion, profit shifting, creating pressure combined with our tax amnesty. These are all creating a setup for us to communicate with business community as well as taxpayer in Indonesia that we forgive you, but this time we expect to have a better compliance, or in this case non-negotiable compliance. I think the message is effectively received. Of course, we have to, the challenge is how we are going to maintain this momentum ahead. So in the future, the discussion is going to be much more challenging. As you all know, that the global environment is not getting easier for all of us to navigate, with the increasing interest rate, more tightening liquidity, as well as trade tension. So we want to use what we've already built in terms of credibility and effectiveness of our budget, as mentioned earlier, to become tools for us to protect the Indonesian economy, so do the counter-cyclical in an effective way, making sure that we are going to be able to withstand the shock, which is expected to continue until at least in the next 1 or even 2 years. And of course, for all of us to be able to continue focus on what is important, that is the development, human capital improvement, infrastructure of good quality and sustainable way, as well as managing risk in a very prudent and very cautious way. So that is what I'm doing, and the fact that it is being recognized and receiving this the best finance minister is very, very touching and honor. Sometimes you feel that it is much easier to get recognized outside Indonesia than inside Indonesia. So thank you so much for all this, and I do hope that this is going to be really good for the Republic of Indonesia, for the people of Indonesia. I'm using this for motivate all of us to get better. Thank you.
Bentar bu. Bu tunggu bu. Bu kanan bu. Bu. Bu kanan bu. Makasih bu.
Thank you, Minister. We'd like to move to our next award, which is Middle East and North Africa Central Bank Governor of the Year, which is Mr. Abdelatif Jouari.